authenticity to send their mom a Mother's Day card.
Therapy, that's your business. You guys just had a big appearance on national television. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some specifics.
Yeah, no, so we, my sister and I, we, found a new therapy in America, and we dove right into it in our hometown, tiny Carmel, California. Only has a population of 4,000, but we really saw a quick success. And we applied to Shark Tank, I think, when we were 7 months in business. And fortunately for us, we beat out 70,000 other entrepreneurs to appear on season 7, episode 20.
Wow.
And have just kind of taken off ever since. And it's been quite the journey for us so far.
So, Skylar, you already said 3 things I've got to ask about. First of all, you work with your sister. You know, a lot of people have sibling rivalries and things like that. How do you all get along, and how do you make the business run?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, we're 6 years apart, and when we grew up, we hated each other. So that's a great question to ask. I think the thing is we're actually the perfect team. I'm kind of the big dreamer who, I think I could open 1,000 locations in a year. And she's more reserved and more the container. And, she makes sure that we're organized and balanced and we don't rush into anything. So we kind of balance each other out, and we have different strengths. I'm really the science guy, and, she's very good with paperwork and being organized and marketing.
Gotcha.
So we kind of have our different areas that we focus on. You want to have a good entrepreneur team, you need to have both types of people. Someone who is a big dreamer who really, is very optimistic, and then you need to have someone who's more reserved, because the combination will really balance you out in the long term.
Right. And I've got to applaud you, because I've done business with family before, and it was weird because I ended up having to fire them. And they weren't as motivated as you two were. I mean, where's the drive come from with your business, Glacé Cryotherapy?
Yeah, there is so much motivation between us both. When we started it, we were both kind of in a low spot. I had just been dumped by my college sweetheart. She broke my heart. And,
oh, man.
I was very motivated to, go out there and conquer the world and succeed. And my sister, had just gone through with a job where she had a horrible experience for 3 years. She came home crying from her job. And so didn't really know what she was going to do with her life. And we kind of came together and found this cryotherapy and said, hey, this therapy is amazing. Can we make it work? So we said, yes, we can. Let's do it in Carmel and, make this thing, which bring cryotherapy to America. So when we started, we were definitely at a low point. But, we both had the motivation to say we want to have better lives. We want to, to feel something inside of each other and, make this happen.
Wow.
That's really where the motivation comes from.
So even though two big personal, I guess, low points, like you said, you came out with a great idea, obviously, and then you're in business for 7 months and you beat out 70,000 applicants for Shark Tank. What do you think set you all apart from the other 69,993 applicants?
Well, first of all, I think we're lucky that we have such an interesting, therapy that we work with. I mean, first of all, when people say, oh, man, you freeze people for 3 minutes, it really catches people's attention. So first of all, cryotherapy is just different. It's a brand new industry here in America. So I don't think they'd ever had seen any audition tapes or anybody go in there auditioning for cryotherapy. We're probably the first. And then also the fact that we're brother, sister, and people go, how do you work with your sister? How do you work with your brother? And, we're both very, very passionate. And they could see that in our audition video, how passionate we were. And I think we really knocked it out of the park with our audition video. It's probably the hardest stage you got to get past when you're playing the Shark Tank. And, we made a good 10-minute video. I kind of popped out of the cryosauna like a Jack in the Box. And they told us that the producers just loved the video. And I think that's really what set us apart.
So not only are you working with your sister, not only have you been in business 7 months and all of a sudden you get on Shark Tank, but you're also millennials. And, a lot of people say millennials are unmotivated, they're lazy. What do you say to that, knowing that you have a crazily growing business right now?
Yeah, I think, millennials are very misunderstood. Most of my friends, they all want to own their own businesses and do their own things. And I think a lot of millennials are striving, to get to the point where they can, try to do something on their own. Because I do think there's that misconception that we're lazy and we don't care. I can tell you right now that millennials are actually very, very passionate. I just know from my friends that they really do. We all kind of want to do our own thing and, have a huge impact.
Wow.
So I do like the fact that we're millennials and, we've seen quick success. Hasn't been without, the occasional valleys, which, every entrepreneur will encounter.
Right.
But there's been a lot of peaks, which have been fantastic for us so far.
So great. Awesome. So now a lot of people think just because you go on Shark Tank, you're a contestant on a TV show. Okay. But you're actually pitching a business opportunity, an investment opportunity. Had you guys pitched investors prior to even applying for Shark Tank?
No, honestly, not like that. I mean, we have met with so many potential partners and, individuals that are interested in cryotherapy, and a few before Shark Tank, but it was never in the capacity that we're really pitching our business for someone to give us a big chunk of money and invest in it. So that was really, our Glossy Cryotherapy is our first business. And I didn't really take any business courses in college, and neither did my sister. So we've been kind of learning as we go. But there's no better way to learn than, learning by doing.
Yeah. So, on a national television stage, I'd say you're doing a pretty good job of learning. Okay.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the decision, because you are pitching a part of your equity when you go into the show. What was the thought process you all had when you said, okay, we'll part with, X amount of the company? What was going through your mind? I guess what was balancing you out to say, we want to do it, but we want to do it right?
Yeah, there's a lot of decisions you have to make. And, we knew we wanted to keep full ownership on our side, but we were willing to give up a lot of equity. I mean, my sister and I, we're not greedy. I mean, of course we want financial security so we can, support ourselves and our family and our friends. But more so than anything, we want to see cryotherapy succeed. And we wanted to find the right partner that we thought, hey, they can, actually make cryotherapy, help us scale this in America. So we were definitely willing to, I think, part with at least 40% equity. And that was probably our final limit was 40% when we were going into Shark Tank.
Wow. So with that, I heard you mention scale. I think I visited your LinkedIn page and I saw the word franchise there. How are you guys scaling since being on the show, or what are the plans for scaling in the next couple of years?
Well, yeah, I mean, therapy spas in the whole country. I'm pretty sure 15 of them were in Texas. So it was brand new. And we're kind of, inventing the game as, we were going along, making the rules and everything. And we just said, this therapy works so well that it really should be in every single city. And after a year, there's not 20 anymore. There's around 250 locations. So It's growing as I expected it to. We wanted, for franchise, you got to give people a reason to franchise with you. So, there's a huge learning curve to cryotherapy. There's ways to market it, ways to give the therapy correctly and effectively and give that good experience. And we feel like we've mastered that. And since Shark Tank, we've received probably over 1,000 franchise requests.
Wow.
But, your first 20 or so franchises are so important for setting up your future. They have to be very selective on who you choose and what locations you go into. But probably the most important thing that's happened is the vice president of a huge fitness club chain watched our Shark Tank episode, called me 2 days after the show and said, hey, how would you like to put Glossy Cryotherapy inside of our fitness club? I said, absolutely. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, right? I have all these franchise requests. And what's going to happen is we're about to finalize a deal this week, actually. They have over 600 locations in the country. And we can either put our own corporate locations or we can sell our franchise and have people buy into Glossy and open in these fitness clubs. So I think we're going to do probably both. But now we have something a little bit more proprietary to us because we don't make the equipment that we use. But if you want to go into this fitness club, you have to have Glossy over your name.
Wow.
So it's definitely something that's going to help our brand in the future.
Did I just hear you say basically that your brand tripled or quadrupled in locations and is going to do that in one deal?
Well, I think it gives us the possibility for it. It's just a huge opportunity. I mean, we're going to do our best to execute and scale it into all 600 locations, but that's going to take some time and, have to be done right. But we have a bunch of franchise requests, and once I'm able to, present this to the franchise requests we've already received, I think a lot of investors are going to jump all over it because it's a huge opportunity to own your own business, get into a new therapy that's really taking off, and it's going to be a great model inside of this fitness club.
Well, I tell you, it really sounds like you guys are having some rocketing success. Definitely you and your sister. What's your sister's name?
My sister's name is Brittany.
Okay, we want to give Brittany some credit too, right? Because she, like you said, she keeps you grounded, right?
A lot of it. We wouldn't be where we are without her. I mean, if I didn't have her, I probably would have blown this thing all up because I'm so aggressive. But she really, she's amazing at marketing. There's no one better at marketing. And, as far as being organized, there was so much paperwork and phone calls and emails. And she is absolutely amazing at keeping us organized and on track. So without her, there'd be no Glossy.
Awesome.
That's without a doubt.
Awesome. Well, just in case you're just tuning in, we've been talking to Skylar Scarlett with Glossy Cryotherapy. Skylar, why don't you tell the listeners how to find out more about Glossy Cryotherapy?
Please visit us on our website, www.glossycryotherapy.com. It has a bunch of great information for individuals to check out, and also it has a great webpage on it that will discuss the franchising possibilities with us. And then also, if you're in Carmel, California, my sister and I, we still operate on site at our Carmel location. If you want to meet us in person, you can definitely come in, and I'm always happy to discuss Shark Tank and entrepreneurial advice to anybody that walks in while I'm here, which I don't know how much longer that will be, but while I'm here, I'm definitely open to it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Scarlett. Hey, if you're in Carmel, California, stop by and say hello. Class A Cryotherapy, thanks for taking your time out on Radio for Small Business.
Yeah,